Everybody. This is sixth grade religion for Tuesday, May 26th. We'll be looking at page 92, lesson 43. So the devotion that introduces the lesson says this. Annie loved to visit her great-grandmother Edith in the nursing home. Edith had grown up in France, and Annie loved to hear her stories about her homeland. Some of the stories were funny, while others were sad. Great-Grandma Edith said, "Growing up in a village in France was so much fun. My brother Pierre and I played in the park and went to school, of course. On Sundays we went to church with our family, and sometimes we went to the city and attended a concert or visited a museum. When World War II came, everything changed. The Nazis invaded our country and we lived in fear. We stayed in our village and in our little house. The Nazi leader, the Führer, Hitler himself, was on the radio. He said that Germany had established the 1,000-year Reich, a kingdom that would last for 10 centuries or more. We did not want to be a part of that kingdom, so we prayed every day for God to send us help. Help did not come quickly. We had to be patient and trust the Lord. I was especially frightened when Pierre would leave our little house late at night. He was 16 and in the French resistance. One day we heard that a Nazi tank had been blown up by a homemade bomb. We never saw Pierre again after that day. In 1944, we heard a rumor that help was on the way. We could hear the noise of the battle in the distance. Finally, soldiers from England and America came into our village and we were free again. God blessed us through the people from across the sea. The war finally ended, Hitler killed himself, and the 1,000-year Reich was no more. His kingdom of 1,000 years didn't even last 20 years. Great-Grandma's story ended, but her thanks to the Lord for their rescue never stopped. We know that no kingdom made by human beings will last forever. Men make promises they can't keep. They lead in paths we should not follow. God is our dwelling place, a refuge for all generations. Only the word of the Lord endures forever. Okay, so we're on page 92, lesson 43. Oh, I just want to check and see if the song that I set up is available where it should be. And that's not what it should be doing. Let's see. That should be it. Okay, yeah, it is where it was supposed to be. Okay. All right, in my book it says this. The account of Nebuchadnezzar's dreams and how God gave Daniel the interpretation of the dream is told from Nebuchadnezzar's point of view in the form of journal entries in this lesson. Because of the journal format, events are not told in the same order as in the account in Daniel chapter 2. For this reason, let's see what goes on to something else. Nebuchadnezzar ordered his wise men, let's read the first day's journal and go from there. It says, Nebuchadnezzar's journal, dream 1. It happened again last night. Remember, this is Nebuchadnezzar talking. That nightmare that has troubled me lately. In this dream, I saw a frightening image, mighty and extremely bright. Its head was made of gold, its chest and arms of silver, its middle and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, and feet partly of iron and partly of clay. As I watched, a stone was cut out by no human hand, and the stone struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them to pieces. Then the image was broken into pieces like dust, which were blown away by the wind. The stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This morning I called for my advisors and ordered them to interpret my dream. When they couldn't tell me what my dream was, I ordered all of them killed. One of my Judean advisors, named Daniel, has requested an appointment with me to show me the interpretation of my dream. Wouldn't it be amazing if he could do what all the others could not? After I agreed to see him, Daniel asked Captain Arioch to not destroy the wise men of Babylon. Several days have passed, but finally I understand the meaning of my dream. Daniel said he and his friends had prayed to their God and asked him to reveal this mystery. When I asked Daniel if he could interpret the dream, he said that no wise man had the power to do that, but that there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he had made known to Nebuchadnezzar what would happen in the future. Daniel said that God had given me my kingdom with all its power and glory. That means I'm the golden head of the figure in my dream. He told me that another kingdom, not as powerful or glorious, would follow my kingdom. Then a third kingdom of bronze would rule over all the earth. Then a fourth kingdom, like iron, would crush all these kingdoms, but it would have feet of iron mixed with clay. It would be partly strong, but partly brittle. In those days, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, and it will stand forever. That was the stone that was cut by no human hand, and grew into a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Truly, Daniel's God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings, and he is the revealer of mysteries. Okay, so my book goes on to explain it. Nebuchadnezzar ordered his wise men to explain the dream. They answered that no man could do what he asked, only a God would be able to. Nebuchadnezzar sentenced all the wise men to death. Then Daniel enters the story. He acknowledges that the dream and its interpretation could be answered by his God, the true God. Daniel 2:14 says that Daniel approached the captain of the king's guard with prudence and discretion. Daniel's request to delay the execution showed mercy like that shown by his God. In other words, he was kind to these other wise men who hadn't been really very good to him. At this time, Daniel sought the support of his friends, and more importantly, he sought God's help. But Daniel's prayer is in chapter 2 of the book of Daniel, and I got to get my Bible. Hold on a second. Daniel 2, verses 20 to 23. It says, Daniel 2, yeah, that's right. 20 to 23. Oh, okay. And Daniel said, Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king. You can kind of see the illustration there of the king's dream. God reveals mysteries, and he made known events, secular and political, that would happen in the near and the distant future as kingdoms would rise and fall in Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Nebuchadnezzar honored Daniel and acknowledged that Daniel's God was greater than all other gods. Not really displaying faith, but it was an important step away from worshiping idols, at least. Okay, so a little more about the symbolism. The golden head stands for Nebuchadnezzar and the glories of his kingdom, which included one of the seven wonders of the ancient world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The dream showed his kingdom would end and be replaced by another, though inferior kingdom, which is represented by the silver chest and arms. This would be when Nebuchadnezzar's heir would be conquered by the Medes and the Persians. Eventually, the power of the Persians was broken by Alexander the Great, who spread the Greek culture and influence far and wide through his successful military campaigns. This is suggested by the bronze middle and thighs of the statue, bronze being inferior to silver in value, but used often in weaponry. Then came the iron legs to represent the strength of the Roman civilization that would conquer the known world at the time. However, note that the feet of iron are mixed with clay as a reminder that Rome had its strength, but also serious weaknesses, which eventually led to its downfall. The stone not formed by human hands represents Jesus, conceived without a human father. Jesus was born during the reign of Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus. The stone destroyed all the other kingdoms so completely they were like chaff or dust blown away by the wind. Christ's kingdom is unlike the others. It can never be destroyed. It's a heavenly kingdom that will last forever. Christ, the King, offers his people forgiveness of sins, life, and salvation, both now and eternally. Okay, covenant connection. History is the story of the rise and fall of civilizations. Some civilizations last only a few centuries, while others endure for thousands of years. But all earthly kingdoms eventually come to an end. But what does ancient history have to do with you and me? Nebuchadnezzar's mistake was putting his confidence in his kingdom. He believed that his power and glory would last forever. Do modern heads of government and people who follow them make that same mistake? Where do we put our trust? As scripture states, the word of the Lord endures forever. The Messiah came as a different type of king who, through his own sacrifice, offers us life eternal in his heavenly kingdom, in a kingdom that will never end. Okay, so we move on to page 93 and Nebuchadnezzar's journal, Dream 2. It's like deja vu all over again. Deja vu is that experience people sometimes have where something's happening to them and they think they've been through it before, and maybe they've dreamed it prior to that. So he's having another dream. This dream is driving me crazy. My wise men are clueless as to what it means. So today, Daniel came in and I told him the dream because I know the Spirit of God is on him. My dream is this: a mighty tree stood in the middle of the field with its top reaching to heaven. Its leaves were beautiful and its fruit abundant, and in it was food for all. Animals lived in its shade, birds lived in its branches. Then a messenger came from heaven and said to chop down the tree, cut up its branches, and scatter its leaves and fruit. But leave the stump and the roots in the earth amid the grass of the field. The stump would be wet with dew like the grass in the field around it, and the mind of a beast would be given to him. 7 periods of time would pass so that everyone would know that the Most High rules the kingdom of men and gives it to whoever he wills. Daniel said that I am the strong, beautiful tree in my dream. My greatness is grown and my dominion reaches to the ends of the earth. But it is the decree of the Most High that I will be driven from among men and dwell with the beasts of the field. I will eat grass like the oxen and be wet with dew for 7 periods of time until I recognize that the Most High, meaning God, rules the kingdom of men. As the stump was left in the field to sprout again, so my kingdom will be returned to me at the time I acknowledge that heaven and God rules. So much has happened in the years since my last entry. 12 months after my dream, I stood on the roof of the palace and boasted about my great kingdom. Immediately I heard a voice from heaven telling me the kingdom had departed from me and my dream was about to come true. I don't remember the next 7 years, but people tell me I went insane. Living out in the fields with the animals, eating grass like an ox. My hair grew as long as eagle's feathers, and my nails were like bird claws. Finally, I lifted my eyes to heaven, and my reason finally returned to me. I praised and honored the Most High God who lives forever, for his kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. My kingdom was restored to me with even more greatness. Now I praise and honor the King of heaven, meaning God, for all his works are right and his ways are just. Those who walk in pride, he is able to humble, as Nebuchadnezzar found out. Okay, about that section, my book has this comment. Nebuchadnezzar's second dream came at a time when everything was going well, and it terrified him. The dream did. Again, he tried his Chaldean wise men, but they failed. He sent for Daniel. He recognized that Daniel was specially blessed by God, although his own knowledge of the true God was limited. He told Daniel he had dreamt about a mighty tree, its top reaching up to heaven, whose leaves were beautiful and whose fruit provided food for all. A messenger from heaven ordered the tree to be cut down, its branches, leaves, and fruit scattered. The stump remained, bound with iron, in a grassy field wet with dew. Nebuchadnezzar's mind changed from that of a man to that of a beast. He became like an animal. 7 periods of time would pass over him. God gave Daniel the interpretation of the king's dream, which had a personal rather than a political interpretation. The tree represented Nebuchadnezzar himself. God had decreed that Nebuchadnezzar should be driven from society with a mental illness in which he had the mind of a beast, possibly what's known in psychology as lycanthropy. The stump shows that after 7 periods of time he would be restored. Nebuchadnezzar's boasting from the palace rooftop shows that he honored himself more than God, a sin against the first commandment. Insanity struck him instantly, and he spent 7 periods of time, probably 7 years, living like a mad dog who has been chained out in the field because people couldn't stand his presence. At the end of the prescribed time, Nebuchadnezzar had learned his lesson. He turned to the Lord, and his reason returned to him. He praised God as the Most High, whose kingdom endures forever. We need constantly to be reminded that although earthly kingdoms have great power and authority, the Most High rules. Thankfully, he rules mercifully and with love and for the benefit of his church. Okay, so again, there wasn't a lot to fill in this lesson. And it's kind of a bizarre lesson having to do with dreams. So it reminded me of a song. There was a musical that we did as a school musical way back in one of the first years that I was at St. Paul's about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and Daniel called It's Cool in the Furnace. And one of the songs has to do with this lesson. And the song is called Show Us the Dream. It's the part where Daniel prays, along with his friends, probably Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that God will show them, reveal to them what the king's dream means. So let me grab my guitar. Roll. Okay, I'm going to back this up a little bit. Bring that down a little bit. Okay, so this is what the song sounds like. It goes like this. Who knows what a dream is? Who knows what it means? A dream is like a shadow. It's never what it seems. Lord, show us the dream. Lord, show us the dream. Okay, and then the second verse is like that too. And then there's a bridge, which is a little different. Let's look at the bridge. The bridge sounds like this. A dream can be so many things, messages and angels' wings, silver, gold, and brass it brings, hope to men and fear to kings. And then it goes into the third verse. Okay, so let's try it, starting with verse 1 in chorus. Who knows what a dream is? Who knows what it means? A dream is like a shadow. It's never what it seems. Lord, show us the dream. Lord, show us the dream. Who knows where a dream goes? Who knows where it hides? A dream is like a whirlwind. It's always changing side. Lord, show us the dream. Lord, show us the dream. Now let's bridge. A dream can mean so many messages on angels' wings, silver, gold, and brass it brings, hope to men and fear to kings, like Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 3. Who knows what a dream says? Who knows where or why? A dream is like a whisper, as haunting as a sigh. Lord, show us the dream. 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 Okay, you see where it fits in with the lesson really well. Okay, I like that song. All right, so let's see. The memory verse for this lesson is Isaiah 40, verse 8, which says, "The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever." Okay, let's say the whole thing this time. Say it to your mom or dad, or if you got a brother or sister who could listen, say it to them. Write the results in your book on page 93 and then email them to me. Along, if you haven't done the other lessons, tell me that. I'll get to that in a minute. So write how many helps, how many mistakes. If you need to say it a second or third time to get a verse score, you can do that. Okay. So once again, let's see. So we got one. We have one more lesson tomorrow. Yes, on Wednesday. So, and that's an interesting one about Nebuchadnezzar. No, I think it's about another king from Babylon, or maybe Persia. Anyway, it's an interesting story too. So we'll do that one tomorrow. But in the meantime, if you had not sent me an email with your memory results from all the lessons that we've done at home, again, all I want you to do is just put the page number that the memory was on and how many helps and how many mistakes for each one. If it happens to be that you got 0, 0 on all of them, just tell me that, because that'll save you some work and save me some work. Okay, so give me your memory results if you haven't done that already. Watch for another email with another video link for Wednesday's lesson on Wednesday. Thanks for watching.